We're here in Monte Carlo for the Rendezvous de Septembre. For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks. And we're joined now by Alex Maloney, Group CEO of Lancashire Holdings. Alex, good to see you.
Very good to see you, Richard.
So, cycle management has always been a central tenet of Lancashire's business. Where are we now in the cycle?
Well, I think the cycle is alive and kicking, and it will always be. There are points in all of our careers when people say the cycle was over. That is untrue. But look, I think we are in a very good place. I think most classes of business have seen rate increases for 6 or 7 years. It feels like you're at the peak of the cycle. The real question is, where do you go next? And again, each product line will have a different story based on results. I think the biggest thing that everyone has to remember though is the cycle is driven by returns or lack of returns, and this latest hard cycle was necessary following some really poor underwriting years. And yes, the industry had a great 23. We're halfway through 24, and that feels quite good, but we are in peak hurricane season. But discipline needs to be maintained to make sure we can prove to our investor base that this is sustainable.
And how easy is it to maintain that discipline?
I think it's always difficult, and discipline comes in many shapes and forms. When the market is very difficult, you have to reduce your underwriting. You have to take less risk because you just don't have the earnings to sustain that level of exposure. But equally, you have to be disciplined when the market's been really good. One thing at Lancashire that we've been very focused on in this hardening cycle is making sure we truly grow our business in excess of the rate change at the right time. So I think you have to be disciplined in different ways at different parts of the cycle and just be sensible about where you are.
So maintain discipline, but also with an eye for opportunities. What sort of opportunities?
Of course, because the Lancashire model doesn't work unless you grow sufficiently when the rates are good. Yeah. So obviously you're trying to make a superior return over a longer period of time. So cutting back in a soft cycle is one thing, but unless you grow materially when the rates are good, your whole thesis doesn't really work. So I think you have to look at both sides of the cycle, and you have to adapt your business accordingly to the opportunity.
And where are those opportunities?
I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, we've met some really great clients here already this morning, and some clients are looking to buy more coverage. I think that's great. So look, there's definitely opportunity for Lancashire to grow next year into 25. The pace of our growth won't be the same as it's been in the last few years because the market is flattening, and that's fine, and that's inevitable. But I think there's lots of areas where we can grow our business. We have opened up in the US. We have a new E&S offering, and we will do that the right way and grow accordingly. But it's a huge market, so it's exciting for us.
So last year we talked about the kind of lack of underwriter experience in a hard market.
Yeah.
How's that played out?
I think any underwriter has to go through a series of cycles to truly understand what that means. And I think there was a point, recently where the market was distressed and no one really knew what that meant. And for those underwriters that have never been through that dislocation, they would have learnt a lot. Yeah. But in the same way, there are some underwriters this year that if you've got 5 or 6 years experience, you've only seen rates going up. Mm. Yeah. And if that doesn't happen, and I'm not here to talk the market down, but if rates do start flattening or coming off, that's going to be another new experience. So again, it's very hard to replicate experience in our business. And yes, there's a lot more data points, and everyone's got modelling and actuaries, and the business is just more professional. But I still don't think you can replicate going through parts of the cycle and knowing what you need to do. In the same way that, okay, if the market's flattening, I still think we're in a great place. That doesn't massively concern me going into 25. I don't believe you go from a great market to a really bad market in 1 year. It just doesn't happen that way. So we're positive.
And it's not just, I guess, underwriters' experience, investors' experience as well. How well do they understand the cycle?
Yeah, look, I mean, let's see it from the investor's point of view. You know, these businesses are complicated. We use a lot of jargon, and you know, the industry hasn't made its cost of capital really for a long time. And yes, we are today, and the returns look very good. So I think you're taking a complicated message at a time when people haven't made money, at a time when there's a lot going on in the world, whether that's climate change, whether that's wars, whether that's inflation. So it's very complex all at the same time. But we are seeing more investor confidence coming back. You know, we're seeing that in our business. But I do think those investors will be measured. I think if they believe that the discipline is leaving the underwriting community after 18 months of good returns, I think there's plenty of other things for them to invest in. So I think the sensible investors will see the opportunity for what it is, but they're not going to hang around if the market just all the discipline disappears in a year. That's just not going to happen, which again I think is a good thing.
Alex, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
For AM Best TV, I'm Richard Banks.